Okay, let's dive into this. It's a really unique mission we're looking at today. The whole idea is, what if that everyday barcode, the QR code or the UPC and everything you buy, what if it wasn't just for checking stock? What if it actually became a way to fund nature? Permanently? Verifiably.
That's exactly the challenge Stewart Irvine tackled. And it's huge because, well, think about the scale gap. You've got trillions flowing through commerce every single day, billions of transactions, but almost none of that value, that consistent cash flow, systematically finds its way back to, say, biodiversity protection or restoration projects. It's like this giant hole in the middle of the economy.
Right. And Stewart Irvine, the founder of BioSquares, he's the one trying to bridge that gap. What really stands out is that he self-funded this whole thing. He wasn't just aiming for, like, a quick campaign or another app. He saw systemic problems he knew from his background in tech, media, sustainability. And he set out to build actual infrastructure, market-neutral infrastructure.
Exactly. It's architectural thinking. His vision is that every single product needs to carry what he calls living proof of impact. The goal: take those standard 2D barcodes everyone already uses and turn them into gateways to regeneration. So every time you scan something, it triggers funding for a real, verifiable act of restoration, like planting kelp or restoring forests. You see it happen.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting because BioSquares emerges from this big contradiction in the market right now. On one hand, you've got regulations getting much tougher. By 2027, governments are cracking down on greenwashing. They're pushing for total transparency, demanding things like digital product passports with verified data.
And that digital product passport idea, for listeners maybe not deep in global trade rules, think of it like the product's digital birth certificate. It tracks materials, manufacturing, its impact. So the market needs proof now. There's real pressure.
But here's the contradiction. Consumers. We're all still kind of stuck in this old loyalty program mindset, right? Decades of training, chase points, get rewards. It's all about repeating purchases for my immediate benefit. It's not about contributing to the planet or seeing verified proof of impact. So how does BioSquares deal with that? Regulation demands proof, consumers chase points.
That gap, that tension, that's exactly where the opportunity lies. Points work because they're instant, tangible. You get a discount, maybe a free coffee, it's self-gain. Environmental contribution. Historically, it's felt abstract, voluntary. Often you don't see the result for ages, if ever. So BioSquares realized they had to inject that same feeling of immediacy, but with proof. Make the environmental contribution visible, instant, maybe even socially rewarding, right within that existing scam behavior.
So for a big brand, this isn't just like corporate social responsibility fluff. It's actually about managing risk. Let's break down the three main pain points BioSquares was really built to solve for everyone involved.
Yes. Framing it as risk is key. These are major business risks. First, funding risk. Conservation groups, they just don't have predictable money. It's often based on donations, very volatile. Brands need reliable ways to offset, but the funding isn't stable. Second big one, verification risk. Brands are literally getting sued over greenwashing claims. It's incredibly hard to prove impact in a way that consumers and regulators actually trust. Needs to be visible, auditable.
And the third one gets right to the consumer problem, participation risk. We all say we want to be more sustainable, right? The intention is definitely there. But actually doing something, that intention-action gap is massive. People just don't act if it requires effort, signing up, donating, changing habits.
And if you step back, the simple truth is, the link between the stuff we buy every day, that shampoo bottle, that sweater, whatever, and the ecosystems they impact, it's invisible, completely invisible right now. And if it's invisible, it doesn't get valued. BioSquares wants to make that connection impossible to ignore, make it visible. And by doing that, you reduce the brand's verification risk, and crucially, you remove that participation friction for the consumer.
Okay, we get the problem, the scale, the push from regulators. Let's get under the hood now. How does the actual mechanism work? How do you turn a boring barcode into a funding stream without making brands rip out all their existing systems?
Right. The core idea is pretty elegant. It turns the scan itself into an immediate financial action. So when you scan the product's barcode, the one that's already there, it triggers what they call a pre-funded micro-remittance. It's a small amount of money already set aside by the brand that goes instantly, like right then, to a verified environmental partner. The key is you, the consumer, don't pay extra. You're just activating the brand's existing commitment by scanning.
And then you see the BioSquare on your phone, which isn't just a thank you message. It's, what, a digital tile showing the actual place that got helped.
But hang on, how do you stop this just being tokenism? A brand pays pennies and claims huge impact. How is it really auditable?
Yeah, that's critical. And it goes back to the infrastructure focus. They built it for permanent accountability. That BioSquare isn't just a nice picture. It's a verifiable link. It's backed by the restoration partner, showing ongoing, measurable results. Remember that story about the teenager in Vancouver scanning her shampoo? Her phone shows this glowing patch of kelp forest. She sees the location, the project, the actual result, like meters of restoration lines seeded because of her purchase.
Yeah.
That instant, specific feedback loop, that's what turns passive awareness into, well, an emotional connection,
Yeah.
an active contribution.
That sounds powerful, but doing it globally requires massive scale. What makes the BioSquare system defensible? How do they plan for what they call regen scaling? Universality was the goal from day one. They basically applied blitzscaling logic, rapid growth, network effects, but aimed it at planetary repair. So first, it's barcode agnostic. Works with any code out there, QR, UPC, EAN, data matrix, whatever the brand already uses. Second, it's truly plug and play. It layers onto existing commerce systems. Think GS1 barcodes, those digital product passports we mentioned. Brands don't need new scanners, new software. It fits right in.
Okay, if it's plug and play, why hasn't this been done before? Why did we need a separate outfit like BioSquares? Why didn't, say, GS1 or a big tech company just add this feature?
That's a great question. I think it boils down to core incentive. GS1. They're focused on logistics, inventory management. That's their world. Big tech, often driven by advertising revenue or data harvesting. Irvine's insight, I think, was that you needed this neutral, dedicated layer. Infrastructure focused purely on translating verified ecological results into trusted commerce data. That wasn't anyone else's primary job. Which leads to the third point. BioSquares is inherently compliance-ready. It's built from the ground up to align with those upcoming digital product passport rules and ESG standards. That turns the verified impact data into a valuable asset for the brand, not just a cost.
Right, compliance makes it valuable. But building this still needs capital. Let's shift to the money side, the economics, because the numbers here are pretty compelling.
Yeah, the total addressable market, or TAM, is huge if you think about it as substituting existing spending. Look at global loyalty programs, the ones that train us for points. That's roughly a $200 billion annual spend globally. At the same time, the UN says there's this massive $700 billion annual gap in biodiversity funding needed by 2030, a huge shortfall.
Wow. So the argument is, take that $200 billion loyalty pot. And if BioSquares can shift even, say, 1% of that spending, diverting motivation from points to proof, that 1% could actually make a serious dent in that $700 billion funding gap.
That's the core economic bet, and it hinges on a cultural shift that's already happening. We're seeing proof, transparency becoming the new currency, especially among younger consumers. The social reward of showing you made a verifiable difference might be starting to outweigh a small discount. Marketing makes promises. Everyone's skeptical now. Proof delivers. That verifiable impact, seeing exactly what you helped restore and maybe sharing it, that's a different kind of reward.
Okay, so to prove this works in the real world, they launched a pilot project, Sear Store. Tell us about that, focusing on the blue economy specifically.
Right. Sear Store is focused on the British Columbia coastline. Kelp forests, specifically. Kelp is amazing, absorbs carbon, creates habitat, but restoration funding is patchy. So the pilot is designed as a proof of proof. Can simple product scanning actually drive consistent, reliable microfunding to these projects? And can they generate that verifiable public proof on a manageable scale? Test the whole loop.
And what are they actually measuring in this pilot? Because the ecological results can be slow, right? How do you get measurable outputs quickly?
They're tracking meticulously. Both the commerce side, scan rates per product, how many people scan repeatedly, that's vital. But also, crucially, funding efficiency. How fast does that micropayment actually get from the brand to the field project? Milliseconds matter for trust. And then, the ecological outputs.
Give me an example of those ecological outputs. What does that look like?
We're talking specific, tangible things, like number of kelp juveniles successfully established, or literal meters of restoration lines seeded with kelp. These are hard facts. Verifiable, auditable. They replace vague, we support conservation claims. And of course, they're constantly checking compliance readiness, making sure this data feeds perfectly into those future digital product passport requirements for the brands.
It all sounds great, but it really comes down to the user experience, doesn't it? If it's complicated, people just won't do it, no matter how good the cause.
Absolutely. And that was the core UX principle, stated really simply. We didn't ask for new behavior. We attached meaning to existing behavior. Think about it. You buy something. Maybe you already scan QR codes sometimes sometimes out of curiosity or you share a pic online. BioSquares just layers the regeneration onto that existing habit. Buy, scan, maybe share, and boom, you triggered restoration. That simplicity, that lack of friction is everything for scaling this globally.
That cultural insight seems key as we look ahead, making it effortless.
Totally. The whole focus is grinding down the friction, refining everything, the packaging, how it looks on the shelf, the digital feedback, until scanning for impact feels completely natural, instinctive almost. Because big movements only happen when doing the right thing feels as easy as doing nothing.
So you can imagine walking down a store aisle in, say, 2028, and the barcodes aren't just for the checkout anymore, they're tracking impact. Scanning is less about price checking.
And more like, part authentication, is this product legitimate? And part affirmation, did my purchase genuinely help? Suddenly, every product has this little pulse, this proof of life connected to it, verifying what you bought and what you helped restore.
Which brings us back to the really big picture, the global goals. What's the ultimate potential here?
Well, it's about aligning everyday commerce directly with huge goals, like the global 30 by 30 target protecting 30% of land and sea by 2030. By taking tiny slices of routine spending and turning them into verified restoration funding, they're building a potential financial engine to actually meet those goals, not just relying on governments or charity drives.
So the final thought to leave people with. If proof really does start to replace promise in the marketplace, how fast could regeneration become just a normal reflex, part of every transaction?